Did the governor lift his emergency order? Or is that effective March 1st? Good evening. Welcome to the meeting of the Skokie Village Board for Tuesday, 2/22/22. It'll be, I'm told, 150 years before we're able to say that again. So it's a pleasure to be able to say it. And I think this probably will be the last time I will be reading this introduction. If everything goes as we expect, the governor's mandate will be lifted on the 28th of this month. With Skokie and the entire state of Illinois now in phase 5 of the Restore Illinois plan and the lifting of restrictions on in-person gatherings, Skokie Village Board meetings are in person in the council chambers at Skokie Village Hall, 5127 Oakton Street. Village Board meetings begin at 8 p.m. and will continue to be broadcast live on the Village's YouTube channel, as well as on Skokie Vision cable television channels, 17 Comcast and 25 RCN. Meetings are also rebroadcast on the cable channels in the weeks following each meeting, and the videos are archived on the Village's YouTube channel. As of August 30th, 2021, all individuals in Illinois shall be required to wear masks when indoors, including village buildings. Public comments may still be submitted to publiccomments@skokie.org. Comments received prior to the meeting or during the meeting will be provided to the village board, but will not be read aloud. Public comments also can be mailed or hand-delivered to Skokie Village Hall, 5127 Oakton, Skokie 60077. Attention, Village Manager's Office, or placed in the exterior drop box on the west side of Skokie Village Hall. Each village board meeting agenda includes time for public comments, and individuals wishing to speak on an issue will be allocated time to address the village board. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce our village clerk, Pramod Shaw, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we take the roll, I would like to ask for a motion to permit Trustee Allison Pure-Slovan to participate electronically this evening. A motion, Trustee Kuhn, seconded by Trustee Robinson. Please call the roll.
Trustee Sutker.
Aye.
Trustee Robinson.
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn.
Aye.
Trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Pure-Slovan.
Aye.
Trustee Klein.
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes. And if the clerk would call the roll, the meeting will be in order.
Trustee Sutker.
Here.
Trustee Robinson.
Here.
Trustee Kuhn.
Here.
Trustee Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Pure-Slovan.
Here.
Trustee Klein.
Here.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Here, we have a quorum. Next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda for this evening's meeting. A motion is in order. Trustee Klein, seconded by Trustee Johnson. Is there anything on the consent agenda anybody would like to have removed? If not, I'll call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker.
Aye.
Trustee Robinson.
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn.
Aye.
Trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Pure Slovan.
Aye.
Trustee Klein.
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes. Next item on the agenda is report of our village manager, John Lockerbie.
Thank you, Mayor Van Dusen and Village Board. Good evening, everyone. Item A is regarding establishing a PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy Area and Program to finance energy efficiency and water use improvement projects. This proposed innovative program facilitates furthering environmental sustainability by providing an environmentally specific financing mechanism. The proposed program in front of you this evening is actually the 7th in the state of Illinois. Under Illinois law, municipalities may establish commercial property assessed clean energy, or CPACE, programs in order to offer for-profit and non-profit owners of commercial, industrial, and multifamily properties long-term fixed-rate financing for up to 100% of the costs of their respective alternative energy, energy efficiency, renewable energy, resiliency, and water use improvement projects. This proposal is intended to be a demonstration project that can be rolled out village-wide and serve as an additional strategy to help advance the village's sustainability efforts. Due to the commitment to the environment by both the Hilton Hotel brand and E&M Development, the Homewood Suites by Hilton, to be located in the downtown at the northeast corner of Oakton Street and Niles Avenue, is a strong candidate for this program. Specifically, the eligible expenses include construction materials made from recycled content, technology-based energy climate controls, and improved stormwater retention. If approved, Skokie nor taxpayers would have any cost or liability. In addition, the hotel developer, E&M, would enter into an assessment contract with the village and a bond issue secured by the assessment contract funds the energy project. Such PACE bonds would be repaid through a special assessment lien imposed on the hotel property pursuant to the assessment contract. PACE bonds for the hotel would be issued by the Illinois Finance Authority to finance energy projects in accordance with the PACE Act. The bonds, which are anticipated to be $12.3 million of the project cost, will be purchased by one of the hotel's capital providers, Castle Green LLC. Mark Meyer and Emily Meyer of E&M Development, of the hotel developer, are here this evening, as well as Brad Fletcher from the Illinois Finance Authority. I concur with staff's recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and Board approval of an ordinance establishing a PACE area and program to finance energy projects and other related environmental matters.
A motion is in order. Trustee Sucker, seconded by Trustee Kuhn. Are there any comments or any questions? Trustee Kuhn.
I'm looking at the document. I see that the program was established in 2017 and amended in 2018. This is only number 7 in Illinois. Are there reasons why that would deter its expansion earlier? I'm trying to understand also what makes this prime development and where the potential for having additional PACE programs in the village would be in the future.
So there's been enhancements to the program over the years and modifications. And so one of those modifications is to have authority with the Illinois Finance Authority to be able to issue the bonds. And so that has made the program practical and attractive. And so that's a relatively recent change. And so that's why it's becoming more widely used. And the hotel, being very conscious of the environment, is a really good fit for the program at this point.
Trustee Johnson.
I was just going to ask, so I understand this is a demonstration project, but ideally, like, how would this tool be used more broadly in the community?
So the important aspect is to identify an area for eligible projects. And so at this point, the Illinois Finance Authority is not ready for us to do the whole community. And so they're advancing the program as we speak. And so in a few months, it's very likely that they'll be ready for us to do the entire community, so make any business or future business eligible. But for our perspective, we'd like to go ahead and move forward and have a demonstration project, gain some experience with the program, and then if it does work the way we anticipate it will, to be able to roll it out to the entire community.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? If not, I'll call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker,
Aye.
trustee Robinson,
Aye.
trustee Kuhn,
Aye.
trustee Johnson,
Aye.
trustee Pure Slovin,
Aye.
trustee Klein,
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes.
Item B and C was approved under tonight's consent agenda.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is report of our corporation council. Would like to, I think this is the item of interest this evening. I would like to just explain, this evening, the village board is taking up the ordinances. The public policy debate we have had. The Plan Commission had 2 meetings. The Appearance Commission reviewed the project, and then we had an extensive policy debate here at the village board at the last meeting. The Corporation Council will introduce each of the 2 ordinances. I will ask for a second. I will then ask members of the village board if they have any further comments or questions. After that, I will then invite members of the public, if you wish, to address the village board. Everybody will be accorded 2 minutes to address the board. After, no, 2 minutes. It'll be it's 2 minutes this evening.
I mean, some of us work for 6 hours getting our comments to 3 minutes because that's what we're told.
It's, this evening, it is 2 minutes, period.
No, it's 3 minutes.
You just,
It's change the clock. It's
no,
3
it,
minutes.
this is,
Can you tell me where in the code it says that? I'd like to see it in the code. Because I've been poring over the code since the last meeting. I would like to see the code.
3 minutes. We spend days, weeks waiting from the last meeting to come up with our comments. 3 minutes.
you, 2 minutes,
I would
you will
like to
be
see the
accorded.
code. I would like to see the code.
3 minutes.
This is a joke. You're trying to shut your own constituents.
No, we're not,
Yes, you
no.
are trying to shut your own constituents.
Oh, yeah. You're gonna tie your corporate council up in so much litigation.
Okay.
Oh,
Everybody,
we want our 3 minutes.
stop it,
We don't
stop,
wanna fight you.
stop,
We want
stop.
our 3 minutes.
All right, calm down. Hey, calm down. You want 3 minutes, you'll have 3 minutes. Just be, let's show some politeness. Just everybody take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Everybody's going to have an opportunity, all of us. Also, I do want to recognize that we are going to begin negotiations and discussions with our Environmental Commission. Thank you. One of the things that I think we have all learned is that we need to include the commission earlier on in the process. And John is going to begin meeting with the commission to see, we've reviewed other municipalities, I think 18 in all. No municipality has any review by their environmental commission. So we are going to be taking a look at something that will be somewhat precedent-setting for the region. Naperville has something, but not exactly a review, but they come the closest probably. So we will begin doing that. Trustee Kuhn and Trustee Klein both have been encouraging us to begin those discussions, and we will. So thank you.
Excuse me, quick question. Is there anyone from the planning commission present tonight?
From the Plan Commission?
Yes.
Yes, Paul Luke, the chairman. We have 3 Plan Commission cases tonight.
Okay, the one that originally, the commission that originally approved Carvana.
That recommended it, had 2 hearings and recommended it to the village board. Next item on the agenda is report of our corporation counsel, Michael Lorge.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. Good evening, everyone. Item A is an ordinance which was on my report for a second reading tonight. The first reading was on February 7th, 2022. I did not place it on the consent agenda, anticipating discussion tonight. This ordinance is a companion case to item B on this agenda and will amend Chapter 118, Section 118-175 of the Skokie Village Code by adding car dealers and marine craft dealers under restricted uses in the OR Office Research District, with restrictions listed for this use. The Appendix A use table, which is part of that section, will provide a list of zoning uses and will be amended by adding car dealers and marine car dealers as a restricted use in the OR Office Research District. Mayor, I'd request board action on this ordinance first tonight, and then we would move to the site plan.
Okay, what we will do is I will ask for a motion on the zoning amendment. A motion is in order. Trustee Klein, seconded by Trustee Sutker. What I'd like to do is just simply take the entire question of Carvana up and ask if anybody on the board has any comments or questions, after which we will then entertain comments from the audience. There will be 2 votes, however. First vote will be on the zoning, the second vote will be on the site plan approval. So is there any members of the village board have any questions? Trustee Robinson?
Mayor, I actually have a couple of comments and a lot of questions. So since the February 7th meeting, I've continued to learn about the concerns and the impact of Carvana. I've spoken with fellow educators, commissioners, business owners, citizens, neighbors, and again, the emergent theme of bird mitigation is on top. A second close is the economic impact for the village. So I believe the efforts of Carvana and their response to bird mitigation efforts is commendable and goes above and beyond, making this what I think to be the most bird-friendly structure in the area. So my vote then supported this effort of setting precedents of what I had hoped to be a model and the standard moving forward for bird mitigation in glass structures. So I've also continued to learn about the process. I believe in process. I had the pleasure of speaking with SEAC leader to get the commission's perspective on the project. The village has publicly stated the importance of sustainability efforts, and the fact that the SEAC has been left out does give me pause. I know the mission of the commission is to be a resource for the board and environmental issues, and I'm hopeful that they'll play a more integral part of the review process. So with that being said, I had met some incredible people over the last couple of weeks and wanted to elevate their voices with the hopes to provide some more clarity and context for them and those who they represent. So I'm not sure who's going to answer these questions, but maybe Mr. Lockerbie, you can help kind of direct. So the first one, so it is a concern that the driving routes would possibly drive in front of the Holocaust Museum and Niles North High School. So I wanted to get some response on that one.
So 100% of the truck traffic, this is the the car haulers that hold 9 vehicles will use the expressway and come on, exit the expressway at Old Orchard Road and then head to Woods Drive and then head into the Carvana site at the northernmost driveway and stay on the northern part of the site furthest away from Optima. And they will turn off their engines when they are making their delivery, and then they will exit the site. They cannot go, those trucks cannot go in front of Optima or the Holocaust Museum. There is a condition in the agreement, in the ordinance before the board this evening, that requires that all trucks exit and enter off of Old Orchard Road. And so they will not drive in front of Optima or the Holocaust Museum, and they will not drive on Old Orchard Road in front of Niles North.
Thank you. I got a few more here. Bird mitigation efforts. So there have been so many iterations with these efforts, and I just wanted to see if you can review all of them, not where they were, but where they are currently.
Sure. So all of the Carvana light, internal and external, is dimmed 50% from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. on the south, west, and north elevations. And then specifically during bird migration season, which is 6 months out of the year, all of the lights will be turned out, will be dark from midnight to 7 a.m. The only exception is the Carvana sign on the east side of the building. In addition, there'll be 2-inch by 4-inch pattern window markers that will be present on all the glass on all of the elevations. That patterned markers will be up to the height of 63 feet and 10 inches with the intent to reduce the potential for bird strikes. The village will also commission an independent study to monitor and survey any bird strikes that take place at Carvana and Optima. Purpose of the study is to gain further understanding of the dangers of tall glass buildings located near Harm's Woods and may pose to both native and migratory birds. And to the extent possible, the study will also seek to measure the effectiveness of bird strike mitigation strategies and provide information for future bird strike mitigation within the village. Those are the bird mitigation measures that are in place.
Is Optima cool with that? I don't know if they.
We
Is Carvana cool with that? It was
I got the-
voluntary at the meeting. Is
I-
Carvana agreed?
Next question. All right. So it is believed still that Skokie will receive very little revenue in sales tax. So can we get a better understanding of the financials behind the purchasing and potential income with Carvana?
all of the things that we're talking about so far are conditions in the ordinance. And so they're requirements of Carvana to complete these expectations. They are codified, and so they are enforceable. And so as it relates to finances and the purchasing, so in the state of Illinois, there's a distinction between general merchandise and cars or boats. And so general merchandise has a 1% sales tax, whereas cars and boats are titled product. And so they have a 1% that's applied where the dealership is located as opposed to where the merchandise is received. And so any vehicle that is processed through the Skokie location will generate 1% in revenue for the village. That means whether the vehicle is purchased at the tower or it's delivered and still processed through that tower. And so in the state of Illinois, there's currently only one location, which is in Oak Brook, that's opened. There's a second location that's been approved in Schaumburg. But Carvana has operated in Oak Brook for 3 years, and Carvana has exceeded the revenue projections that they made to Oak Brook prior to opening. The projections on revenue are based on the market share, and Carvana is planning to grow their market share as their business model of offering transactions over the internet and the customer service of delivering the car to people's homes.
So if someone purchased a car in Evanston, Glenbrook, we would still be able to receive some funds from those?
That's right. The purchaser's address has nothing to do with the sales tax. The sales tax is associated with with the car dealership where it is processed.
So there's also, so I've got more questions.
Let the trustee ask his
Yeah.
questions. You will have an opportunity to speak.
So there's a lot of discussion also and concern about billboards and the billboard ordinance. And I was hoping someone can explain the billboard ordinance and how Carvana violates it.
So the highway authority states that within X number of feet, I think it's 600 feet, that there cannot be any billboards, except in municipalities that have their own sign code. So in Skokie, we have our own sign code. And so that is not applicable within our community. And so our sign code says that a sign can be up to 20% of the facade of the building where the sign will be located. So Carvana has proposed to have a sign less than 50% of the Optima sign to give a little bit of perspective. And then along the expressway, the storage facility has a window that shows their merchandise. So there's a self-storage facility that has a window that has their self-storage, an example of their self-storage, such as Macy's does on State Street and demonstrates their merchandise that's available for sale. And so there is a billboard is defined as having text or graphics over the whole sign. And so Carvana does not meet that definition.
So they don't technically violate it.
That's correct.
They're within the sign code as it's written, is that what you're saying?
So I've got a few more questions.
Please.
So there's also a rumor, that a town to the north of us denied Carvana an opportunity to build there. I was wondering if you had any context or.
So Carvana has not been denied by a governing body in Illinois. There have been some preliminary conversations about different sites, but those sites have not worked out for various reasons with site plan issues and so forth. But a governing body in Illinois has not denied Carvana.
So I know Trustee Klein mentioned this before, but I just wanted to bring it back up because I heard about the $200,000 bond. And if you can explain why that would be used.
So if the facility is vacant for 2 years, then the village has the opportunity, the right to exercise that bond to pay for the demolition of the tower. So the thought is, it's a unique structure that if it's vacant for 2 years, the village has the ability to demolish it. It's the first time we've had that requirement in such development.
So I think the last time we met, it was an and/or clause.
That's, yes. So it used to be a requirement to be bankrupt and vacant, and the proposal tonight is for it to only be vacant for 2 years. There's no bankruptcy requirement.
Just three more, I promise. So it seems like we're kind of rushing the decision for Carvana. Is there like a timeline, and if you can just explain it, just to process a little more?
So it originally came into staff late summer, early fall, and there started the review process. The review process includes the planning staff, the engineering staff, police department, fire department, all of the village's departments review these types of proposals. in that review process, the principles of SEAC from their sustainability plan are embedded in that process. In addition, as it got into the formal review with the public, Carvana met with the Optima residents in November. There was a plan commission hearing November 18th, and then a second meeting and hearing on January the 6th. The Appearance Commission met on December 8th to review the proposal. And then the Plan Commission Chair, Paul Luke, presented the recommendation to the village board on February the 7th. Tonight is the second reading, to consider the ordinances of the proposal. And so it's been a many-month process that incorporated many different groups, many different public meetings.
Yeah, I don't know if that's just thinking if that process is widely known. So I'm hoping we could do a better job with explaining the process. And I don't know how we do that, but I'm hoping we might take a look at that. 3 more questions. So there's, of course, the proximity to the Holocaust Museum. And I've heard a lot of people have expressed concerns about that, when they are there to remember their loved ones. There's a concern that there's going to be this bright light that may disrupt their moment. So I'm wondering if, I went over and checked it out, and I know the Optima building is between the proposed site and the Holocaust Museum, but I didn't know if there was a specific line of sight that was from the Holocaust Museum.
So the Optima, the 3 towers of Optima are between the Holocaust Museum and the site that Carvana is proposed for. And so the planning staff did take a look at, are there sight lines from the museum to the Carvana Tower? And they concluded that there are not. And so the tower is not visible from the Holocaust Museum or the gardens.
Thank you. And SEAC. So can you explain the purpose of SEAC, of the commission, and why there seems to be a disconnect with including them in this particular process?
So state law states that the Plan Commission and the village board are responsible for land use decisions and reviewing site plans. And so through that known process, SEAC has provided their sustainability plan, and the village has embedded those principles in land use decisions, in our operations, and really tried to operationalize that plan. But site plans per se for future development do not go to SEAC. And so the specific goals of SEAC are to promote ideas and actions that encourage the preservation and sustainability of the environment, and make recommendations to the board of trustees on policy that would reduce negative environmental impact. And so the staff does and will engage them in different policy discussions and work to make our future development more sustainable. But at this point, they're not reviewing specific site plans, because that's the responsibility of the Plan Commission and the village board.
All right. So it does sound like there's going to be, from the comments of the mayor earlier, more purposeful conversations with SEAC and engaging them in a different way.
Yeah, I think, absolutely. That conversation is happening, actually starting this week. And so we plan to build on what we've done in the past and to improve upon it. But I do think it's helpful to understand some of the ways that the sustainability plan was incorporated into this particular development. There's over a 5,000 square foot bioswale on the proposed site plan to help with stormwater management. The tree preservation, the village's tree preservation ordinance required preserving the 5 trees that are on site. The Appearance Commission also added trees and landscape islands in their review. So in total, there are going to be 29 additional trees being planted on the site. The proposal also includes a multi-use path to connect the Skokie Valley Trail and Harms Wood. And so it's moving people without using vehicles, as well as for leisure opportunities. And the building is located as far from Harms Woods as possible. There's also zero light at the edge of the property, and there's no light that spills over the property line. So all of these principles are embedded in our review process, and so we look forward to identifying future principles, additional principles, that can be applied in future development.
One more question. The planning staff, I know they recommended this particular site. Can you just, I know there are other locations potentially that this site could have been. Was there any specific thought about that as well?
So Carvana found this site and brought this site to the staff. And through the review of this site, they looked at a number of things. And so in the OR district, the Office Research District, there's 50 permitted land uses. And it's an industrial zoning. And so within the village, in all of our industrial zones, car dealerships are allowed. Understanding that residential is also allowed in the OR district, the village staff worked to prohibit uses that would have a negative impact, specifically the auto repair, auto body, fueling stations, car storage as opposed to the striped parking lot, car wash, and outdoor intercom systems. All of those items were prohibited as part of the recommendation to the Plan Commission. In addition, as the staff looked at it, the impact on traffic is pretty minimal because all of the sales are by appointment only. And so the traffic generation is expected to be very low for a 4-acre site. So on Woods Drive, there's about 4,000 cars currently a day, just over 4,000. And Carvana is anticipated to generate 130 vehicles a day. And so the comprehensive plan identifies this area as a service employment area. So that's a wide range of uses from office to hospitality to retail to general commercial. And so as it was reviewed and the flexibility within this wide range of commercial uses, the Carvana use seemed to fit that OR district.
Was there any other, and I know it's kind of landlocked for the most part along the interstate, and I know that's probably the most prime area. Was there any other places to consider?
There is not another site along the expressway that was attractive to Carvana or that we could identify to recommend to them.
That's all I have. Thank you. And super impressed that you got all of that. Thanks, sir.
Any other comments or questions?
Trustee.
Trustee Pure-Slovan.
Thank you. So thank you, Keith, for those questions. And circling back to your first question regarding monitoring traffic. So how are we going to monitor to ensure that the traffic comes from the Old Orchard exit? And in addition to that, is there going to be a penalty if there's any violation of the traffic pattern that we've created?
We have a code committee that meets internally, which includes the community development department and the police department, as well as all the other departments. And it's facilitated by the manager's office. And part of the responsibility of the code committee is to ensure that these things are enforced and followed. And so really between the community development department and the police department, we will ensure that they're followed. We have the ability to issue fines up to $750 a day through an administrative hearing process, as well as not renewing their annual certificate of occupancy. And so we have the appropriate tools to enforce the rules and to ensure that everybody is maintaining what is agreed upon.
Does the board have any other comments or questions? If not,
Can we make comments after the public comments? Would that be possible? Before the vote?
it's up to you.
Yeah, I'd rather hear from the public first.
Okay. If anybody wishes to address the board, I'm not surprised, just come up to the lectern. Please simply identify yourself. Yes.
Okay, George Rosette, Optima resident. Question for the village manager. You mentioned about the taxes, that it's processed through the tower, but Asher Gronfeld last time for Optima brought out that the tower's an advertising gimmick. People order everything's processed online, and then if the truck delivers it to someone's home in Evanston, Optima, Skokie gets no tax revenue, is that correct?
Incorrect.
But it's not processed through the tower, you used the word process.
So Carvana has an inventory of 60,000 vehicles. The vehicles that are processed through the Skokie Tower in our area will generate a 1% vehicle tax to the village of Skokie. And they have estimated their volume to be very significant.
Yeah, but they could be delivered directly to the person's home. It could come from some other warehouse that Carvana has, and it has nothing to do with the tower then, except the tower's an advertising thing. Is that correct?
Every sale that goes through the Skokie location will generate a 1% revenue for the village. And Carvana has exceeded their revenue projections for the village of Oak Brook.
But it may not be processed, other than advertising, seen from the highway. The Carvana Tower may have nothing else to do with a vehicle being delivered to someone's home in Evanston, so there'd be no taxes. My second question is for the Corporation Council. Now, is this spot zoning, is this illegal? Do you have any opinion or misgiving about the legality of the ordinance?
The zoning is OR and as amended by this ordinance is not spot zoning. It is consistent with the intended use of an OR district.
But you said you never considered it until Carvana came to you asking for the auto dealership, and there was only one place it could be in one spot, so it's spot zoning. But you're saying you have no misgivings, it's totally legal, you're saying?
No, I'm actually saying something more than that. I'm saying that the definition you seem to be working with as to spot zoning is not an accurate legal definition. Spot zoning is when an entire area is changed in its zoning for a specific intent. That's not what's going on here.
Okay, I have 10 seconds. Okay. So the diesels are going to be 90 feet from Optima. They're going to be soot. Asher Brafeld said if business increases, you may have 20 diesels per day delivering the cars. That's a lot of diesels, a lot of soot. I heard no discussion about it. Thank you.
Please, this is not a sporting event. Let everybody make their comments, ask what questions they have. We want to hear what people have to say. It doesn't help.
We're all in support of it. Don't argue with him.
I beg your pardon?
So we're all in support of everything he said. Don't argue with him. We applauded it. Thank you, sir. Very well said.
Thank you.
You'll have your opportunity to speak. Yes, ma'am.
Hello. My name is Janet Ginsburg, and I'm a longtime resident of Skokie. It takes a lot of courage to admit you're wrong. It takes a lot of courage to do the right thing. And in this case, I am hoping that you have that courage to reverse course. This whole thing, whether you build it or you don't build it, is going to be a symbol that will stick to Skokie forever. If you don't build it, it will represent a progressive point of view, a sensitivity to environmentalism, a reality that we are living in a time when tipping points are not just tipping, but colliding. One little tower will kill a bunch of birds, but it won't kill all the birds. The point is, we're losing the birds. The point is, this is on one of the most important flyways in the Americas. Not just North America, but South America as well. So this is not just a local story, but a national story and an international story. If that tower is built, it is going to become a symbol for doing the wrong thing. And that it is a vending machine for cars, which is about as tasteless a thing as you can imagine, just makes it that much worse. You know, when this whole came about, I sent a note to a friend of mine who is a well-regarded veterinary virologist. And he wrote me, "Amazing how humans keep inventing new ways to insult nature. These magnificent birds, the culmination of billions of years of evolution, seeking only to thrive in an uncertain world, wanting no more than a good life for their offspring, will be slaughtered for what? Used cars? Our world has gone crazy." So, no matter what happens here tonight, this is just, you can make a good president or a bad president. As for Carvana, this is a slimy company from start to finish. They are mired in lawsuits all over the country. One of the lawsuits is brought by a pension fund from Minnesota for insider trading worth billions. The father of the CEO, who has been very involved with this company and is involved in that lawsuit, was convicted of bank fraud during the Charles Keating SNL scandal in the early 1990s. If you Google Carvana, which I did a moment ago, have to get back online, and you look at news, you will see story after story of people who have been delivered wrecked cars, or their licensing didn't go through, or something terrible happened. Their stock is imploding. Do the right thing.
Thank you. I'm Leslie Shadd. I lead Natural Habitat Evanston, so I'm Evanston. But we share birds, and a lot of our members, love Harms Woods, as do I, and volunteer there. So that's why I'm here. I wanted to just respond to a couple of comments, just two comments that were made. One is that, there are plenty of other reflective buildings. What's the problem? And I want to just point out the science has progressed a lot in the last couple of years about bird deaths. We've lost 29% of our songbirds since 1970. That's 3 billion birds. They're continuing to decline for many issues, but this is changing how we look at our built environment and biodiversity. As climate disruption and a biodiversity crisis is on us now, we have to change how we live and how we build. And you all as leaders, I realize this is tough, but we got to step it up. I mean, we really have to make this work for biodiversity and ourselves. The second point, much was made of the Albion being glass. And I want to point out, I also am involved in discussions with developers in Evanston as they're building. It is worth noting that the Albion's developer committed to the city of Evanston that that building was going to comply with LEED Pilot Credit 55, which is a pilot credit that they receive credit for, looks at the total threat of the building for birds. It's not accurate to say that, just Albion is just a big glass building. So I want to just point that out. That's really it. But I appreciate your time and what you're doing.
Excuse me, Leslie, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What is the bird mitigation that Evanston has at this moment?
Oh, come on.
We do not have an ordinance. We are working on an ordinance. Chicago has an ordinance.
Okay.
So if Chicago is of interest, also Toronto, other cities do have ordinances. It is increasingly, it's something that we're discussing with the city of Evanston, though.
Thank you.
Be great for Skokie to have an ordinance.
Hi, I'm Scott Brewer. I live on Crawford over near Gulf. I've been a Skokie resident for decades. I'm just wanted to talk about the zoning. You make it sound like you're just making a small adjustment to the, the ordinance about how the land can be used, but obviously everybody thinks that's going to make a big change in the character of it. Zoning is a really important process for making sure you have stability in your city. Zoning is how you tell people, oh, when you come here, this is what you can expect. If you want to open a business here, this is what you can expect. I think when you change the zoning for a project like this, it tells people, you move into Optima, you found a nice place to live, it's kind of quiet around here, and now we want to build a car dealership next to you. I don't think that's the kind of message that Skokie really wants to send to people about stability and all that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Eleanor Shunas. I'm a ecological management volunteer at Harms Flatwoods. The last time I addressed the board, I talked about the Carvana shady business practices and convicted felon and all that. But today I want to ask the question, what's in it for the tax-paying voters of the village of Skokie? No independent data was considered by the board. There is no environmental impact study. There may be infrastructure issues. If you have a billboard, I mean a building, there must be a bathroom. Water and sewer are required. Are they available? Are there pipes under the pavement? If so, what kind of shape are they in? Are they rusted? Are they corroded? Do they need to be replaced? And who's going to pay for it? Oh yes, it's the taxpayers. There are apparently safeguards in place, but how are you really going to know how much tax revenue you are supposed to be getting? It's going to be hard for you to figure out where that car came from that was delivered to somebody in Evanston and what tax revenue you're supposed to get from that. Who's policing this contract? All in all, I think the board can do better for the tax-paying voters of the village of Skokie than this mess. The board should do better for the tax-paying voters of the village of Skokie. And come next election, maybe the tax-paying voters will decide that someone else can do better.
Hi, my name is Pam Sloan. I've lived in Skokie for 33 years. This is the first time I've ever spoken at a meeting, but I was here at the last meeting and heard some very interesting things. I have a couple questions, actually. But first, I'd like to speak up about something having to do with the Holocaust Museum. I have a master's degree in architecture, and one of my professors was Stanley Tigerman. I don't know if any of you remember Stanley when the museum was being built, but I can guarantee you that that little man is rolling over in his grave right now, and if he were here, he'd be exploding. I just want to put that out there, but I think the real issue here is about stewardship. You were elected to be stewards of the village of Skokie, but this issue is more than just the boundaries of Skokie. One of the people who spoke earlier really defined what happens when the birds are going to be killed, and they will be killed by this glass curtain wall. The bird mitigation is only going up about half of the tower. And I just feel that the structure is an irresponsible thing to put up. I think the idea of stewardship for not just Skokie, but for what the flyway represents, it's 35 to 40% of the birds in the United States that fly through this flyway, and we are in its path. We're in the eastern path. They go up the lakeshore and the waterways in Harms Woods up to the the Skokie lagoons, and they're going to get killed. I mean, it's the glass curtain wall that this tower uses that is going to get in their way. Anyway, my question is this, it has to do with the revenue. When I was here last week, and please, people from Carvana, correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard you say that the tower held 50 cars. So if there are 60,000 cars that Carvana is offering for sale around the country, and they're willing to deliver it to you, and you order from that bank of cars, and there are 50 cars in that tower, what are the odds that that car is coming from the tower in Skokie? Please explain that to me and how that revenue is going to be so significant.
In addition to the tower, there's several hundred parking spaces on the site as well. And so the inventory that is within the Skokie boundaries can be closer to 400 than the 57 in the tower. But the business specifics of how the processing of vehicles occurs is Carvana's understanding and their business model. And what they are saying is their sales for this location are going to be significant to the tune of the 8.9 million in 1% revenue over the first 10 years. They have exceeded the revenue projections in the village of Oak Park. In the village of Oak Brook.
Hillary Hunter, 33-year resident of Skokie. I live at 8949 Colmar. I want to say that I live around the corner from Devonshire Park, and I live next door to a very nice gentleman who has lived in that particular house for 40-something years. And he's a voracious he has bird feeders all over his property. He loves the birds. He says it helps him deal with PTSD. So the birds pick what they want to eat, and then they drop the rest. So now we have a rodent problem, and he's trying to figure out how to get rid of the rats that come because of these bird feeders. But what I want to say is that I live next door. I have a back sunroom which has patio doors for most of the one wall. I was living there about 3 months when a bird smashed into the window, the patio door, and broke it and shattered it, and it cost me like $600 to replace. So I got very concerned. I went online, researched with, I think it was Avion and another company, how can I prevent this from happening in the future? So I bought some of this film stuff that gets applied to the windows. It didn't matter. Next I saw a blue jay come up and smash the thing, and I don't know whether the blue jay lived or died, but the only way I could keep the birds from smashing into the window, and I guess this speaks to whether this bird mitigation attempt is really how much value it is. The only way I could get rid of it was putting light, very thick curtains with light protectors and stuff on that whole wall so that no more birds would come and smash into it. Because even though I didn't keep lights on there all night long, somehow the other thing is if you research about the bird mitigation stuff, it has to do with how many frits per square inch. And I have not heard Carvana talk about exactly how many frits they're planning on doing. Are they going to go to the more expensive, more intense coverage, or are they going to just do the minimum required? I am concerned about the birds because it's not just the bird that dies, it's their progeny, and we have mosquito abatement here, and the birds eat mosquitoes. It's like, it just doesn't make sense. It's kind of counterintuitive to me. The income from Carvana, and I apologize, I've only known about this whole deal for 2 weeks, and I consider myself an informed person, but when I Googled Carvana, I learned that they do not make much money off the selling of the vehicles. They make their money off of offering poor people who can't qualify for prime rates of interest on a loan. They offer them alternative loans, and that's where they make their money. And this article, which anyone can find when they Google online, says that actually it's in Carvana's interest not to grow their number of cars they're selling, because each particular car they lose money on. I guess I'd like Carvana at some point to respond to that. I'm through? Okay.
I'm Kimberly Polka, Skokie resident, and though I'm not a Skokie birder, tonight I'm going to talk about the birds. Since February 7th, I did meet with one trustee, which I very much appreciated, who explained he voted aye, in part because there are no ordinances and the mitigation offered was more than any other building in Skokie. But the Carvana Tower is not like any other building in Skokie, and it's going in an especially sensitive area. The proposed gimmicky all-glass display case for used cars is completely transparent. It has no floors, it has no walls, it has no curtains, blinds, or shades to break up the transparent glass panes. Stand at any side of the building or even the corners and look through and you see the sky through to the other side. The zoning chapter calls for site plan approval on every proposal in the OR district and states in part, the request has considered and, to the degree possible, addressed the adverse effects of the natural environment. That has not been done. As mentioned previously many times, Skokie's own SEAC, the commission best suited to evaluate any potential environmental impacts, was completely left out of the process. Ms. Sutker reminded us more than once that the land would be developed to a glass building, a glass office building, a glass hotel, glass senior living facility, or a residential development. Glass is a problem for birds, yes, but the Carvana Tower with its transparency is especially dangerous. Why is it constantly compared to typical buildings by trustees and the mayor who say they've done their due diligence? The comparison of Albion and Evanston to Carvana between Ms. Pugh and the mayor either missed or intentionally glossed over the differences in characteristics of Albion. A typical building with floors, walls, shades, blinds, curtains, nestled among other buildings on Sherman Avenue with a much lower threat factor rating than Carvana, as currently proposed, and Carvana, a completely transparent glass tower at the foot of a nature preserve. I am confident there would not be the same widespread public opposition to any other proposal. I've spoken to many people in person, all of whom signed the petition but two. Even they did not say that they were for the tower. It was always honest where the proposal stood at the time, though there was a caucus party board member claiming on Facebook that Carvana was using special lights to deter the birds, which is flat out false. Tonight, I long to see independent thinking on the board, and I am asking you to either reconsider your vote approving the tower or to delay in order to allow SEAC to be able to properly review and advise on the proposal and to solicit an independent review of Carvana's projected revenue that Skokie can reasonably expect to receive. Those of us who have chosen and been elected, and you've been elected by to serve, have the right to a clear understanding of what you're asking us to live with and what you're asking the birds to die for.
Hi, my name is Robin Bauer. Although I don't currently reside in Skokie, the first 27 years of my life were spent here. And I really enjoyed my time living in Skokie. Now, with all this going on, I'd be a little embarrassed to admit that I lived here. I just wanted to add to what Kim had said. She wanted you all to know that the update with the petition is we've got almost 8,000 signatures, and we're approaching close to 1,400 of them being Skokie residents. I personally am into photography, particularly taking pictures of birds, so I pay attention. This monstrosity that you want to build in the flight path of migration is just, it's ridiculous. Also, Carvana's own website says cars at the towers are sold to people picking up those cars. Carvana doesn't process home delivery, a majority of their sales through their towers. So what do y'all got to gain from this? I'm a little confused, and I also don't understand why SEAC hasn't been involved in this decision from the beginning. You're talking about environmental issues. Hello?
Hi, I'm Janet Pellegrini, and I live in Chicago. I don't live in Skokie, but I don't want birds to die in Skokie either. I'm a scientist. I recently retired from the United States Environmental Protection Agency. I'm a former volunteer with two bird groups, the Chicago Bird Collision Monitors and Flint Creek Wildlife. I also volunteer for piping plovers. And what I want to say to the board is, in my scientific opinion, if you really have to have this glass tower, there are ways to make it better. Obviously, we've gone through the issue of transmission of light. The birds don't perceive glass, and it's just, you're going to ensure their death. One of the things that I noticed from the last meeting, or the board said that they did due diligence, but again, I did not hear anything about an independent study. And I want to share with you a really short story from when I worked at EPA. I was the permit writer for a lot of wastewater treatment plant permits and coal permits. 7 of the permits that are in the Chicago area, one of them which is in Skokie, is from the local sanitary district, which is the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. Well, when we were trying to get them to disinfect their effluent, which they didn't do for 30 years, meaning there's a lot of pollution going into the river right there that include a lot of bacteria, they told us, like Carvana told you, it would cost $838 million to disinfect. And I said to my managers, let's get an independent study. And you know what that independent study said? $242 million. You know what happened when the district actually had to disinfect? They're really good at doing their jobs. They're really good. It cost them $108 million. 138 million to 108. I just want you to keep that in mind. If you do your due diligence, rather than saying you do your due diligence, you should delay this vote. Or you should just vote no outright. Do your research prior to making these decisions. Involve your environmental commissions prior to making the decisions. It is your ethical duty as human beings and individuals with integrity and as representatives of Skokie to do better, to protect these voiceless creatures, these innocent creatures. And when you go to bed at night, how do you sleep? How do you look in a mirror knowing that with all the death we've had with the pandemic, this is another source of needless death, that you could be heroes. You could do something good. And you know what? Skokie can still make money, and you have something Carvana wants. You have the leverage.
Hello, my name is Marla Nitty, and I grew up here, and I reside here now. My family's lived here for 65 years. I didn't plan on speaking tonight, but some things in this room kind of spoke to me. So, what I was going to say is, I would like to thank you also for letting me speak, which is my right, I suppose. But anyway, I would like to acknowledge the indigenous people, the Potawatomi, whose land we stand and reside on. I wonder what the indigenous people would say about this metal and glass homage. Skokie is an indigenous word. With respect to the indigenous people's way of life, living in harmony with each other, with the environment, in every aspect of nature and all living things, Skokie would do right in preserving this land in its present natural state. To honor and respect in recognition of those who should rightly be living here, I stand before you in the Native American figurehead, shining on you, imploring you, the board, to recognize the atrocity of this building project. It's a blight near the trees filled with resident and migratory birds, and I implore you to vote no on this project.
Hello, my name is Ambria, and I'm a longtime resident of Skokie. Here we are faced with a very basic question. Must economic development, no matter how slight or dubious, always come at the very obvious cost of environmental preservation and sustainability? Must the opinions, concerns, and quality of life of Skokie citizens always come second to the interests of corporations? The inclusion of the SEAC is commendable, but frankly too little and too late. Why has there been no independent review by Skokie itself regarding the environmental concerns and the salient economic doubts regarding the project? Why has there been no review of the public health effects of the diesel truck traffic, particularly as it is projected by Carvana to increase over time? Furthermore, why has the council taken at face value the false equivalencies between this unique glass structure, one without opaque walls and floors, and other classic brick and mortar structures whose only glass features are windows? There are far too many remaining questions and far too few defined and reliable answers. The tide is turning against tenuous economic development at all costs. I urge you to think critically and do your own research about the myriad issues with this development. You, the trustees, are tasked with representing the wishes and best interests of Skokie citizens, of both current and future generations. If you will not outright reject this project, as is clearly consistent with the views of the community, I urge and ask you to table the project until a robust independent review has been conducted to provide answers to these questions for all of us here today. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jerry Wasserman. I am leader of the group Reclaim Northwest Suburbs. We fight for environmental, economic, and racial justice in the north and northwest suburbs. You have explained your vote for the Carvana project by touting its financial benefits above all else. By not allowing your Sustainable Environmental Advisory Committee to weigh in on the project, the process looks to be decided by economic factors promoted by Carvana without considering the whole picture. We know 8 out of 10 of those committee members are not in favor of it. It's hard to believe Skokie is a cash-strapped suburb desperate for the next big gimmick, considering the many corporate and retail revenue sources based here. Old Orchard Mall alone brings in $50 million in tax returns each year. There is also federal relief and infrastructure money coming into all of our suburbs. Even with slight revenue decreases due to COVID's effect on local retail and restaurants, most communities have already seen a revenue uptick in these areas in 2022. In addition, there are also questions about the integrity and economic benefits that Carvana would bring to the community. Carvana only sells used cars and has benefited from a year of increasing demand, primarily due to COVID. But this market is slowing as the new car market is again rising, according to market analyses. Not to mention the many scrupulous incidences reported by Carvana customers. Of course, as village board members, your job is to consider what is financially sound for your community, but you are also elected to represent all the voices in your communities and to make zoning decisions that bring pride to the community. We are at a time when environmental issues should be front and center. Almost every environmentalist and environmental organization in Illinois has spoken against this proposal due to the harm it would cause the migrating bird population at Harms Woods right across the street. Skokie residents have loudly conveyed through petitions, emails, and board visits that this tower would be a blight to their community and to anyone who has to pass this tower on a daily basis. Yet the voices of developers and corporations were heard over the voices of residents. I have to give Carvana some credit. It looks like they know which suburban boards to target. Some of you have accused the Carvana approval process of becoming politicized by the only board member to oppose the project, Trustee Johnson. But what he has done should instead be commended because he has involved residents in the decision-making process. Community involvement should always be a priority in any village. It is also wrong to characterize the opposition to this project as progressive or to the left when wanting what is best for the environment and community should be priorities for both sides of the aisle. You all have refused to get the point that no one wanted this project, even with the concessions made by Carvana. No one has presented the proper studies or really knows whether any of these mitigations at this location will work. Can I just say a few more sentences? I was born and raised in Skokie. I remember my dad approaching the village to stop strip malls for being built at the end of our street and questioning the sprawl along Dempster Street. Downtown.
There's a gentleman behind you who would like his time. Please.
I just have 2 more sentences.
No?
The downtown was neglected after Old Orchard was built, but thank goodness over much time it continues to be revitalized. I hope since then Skokie would take a more environmentally conscious direction in its plans for community development and sustainability. One thing I know for sure is every time someone passes that tower, they will be reminded that local elections matter. Thank you for your time.
Ma'am.
I want to thank you for the opportunity to
talk about this issue. Everyone's been really eloquent before me. I
May
have a-
your name, please?
William Benish.
Thank you.
I've been in Skokie since 1998. I only have two questions, really, is what are you guys thinking, and how did this get this far? It doesn't make any sense. If you've ever been on the east-west tollway, you've seen the Carvana spud sticking up. What I want to know is, how did this even become considered, especially at the Forest Preserve? Those are my questions. What are you guys are supposed to represent us? What are you thinking?
Hello, my name is Annette Prince, and I'm representing Chicago Bird Collision Monitors. I first and foremost want to praise the tireless work of advocates and supporters who have overwhelmingly opposed the dangers presented by the construction of the Carvana Tower at the foot of Harm's Woods. Without their input, the tower would have none of the bird protections that have currently been agreed to for light reduction and glass treatment. I appreciate the partial bird safety requirements that the village has included, and we hope these measures will provide some level of protection for the birds that live and migrate in this area. But we continue to be disappointed that while the village has made many exceptions to allow Carvana to be in this area, they could not require higher mitigation to prevent bird strikes. We feel the village could have asked for Carvana to do more. There was a small amount of additional glass to protect with one of the cheapest products used for collision protection, so it couldn't have been a question of cost. The glass markers make no impact on visibility for humans to see inside of Carvana's glass display of cars, so it couldn't have been a question of appearance. The excuse that no one else has been asked to make these accommodations for their building should only be answered by there is always a time when the right thing to do begins to be required or expected. Saying it wasn't fair to Carvana really pales in comparison to how unfair it will be to birds that are killed or injured at this location. In December, I spoke with village officials about how effective mitigation for the Carvana Tower could be an example of the best way to protect birds, which would lead to establishing future design requirements for Skokie. I provided guidelines for a bird-friendly building ordinance, which I hope the village will develop as a tool to expect that all new and perhaps existing structures in Skokie include bird safety in their designs, materials, and operations. Not as an ordinance that isn't enforced or that is loaded with exceptions or loopholes, or one that is allowed to be voluntary, but a meaningful commitment to protecting the birds and nature that thousands of petitioners have asked the village to care about. I also hope, most importantly, that Skokie understands that even with ordinances that outline basic requirements for bird safety, every structure has its own pathology, and there are those with top-tier threat factors, like the Carvana design in its proposed location, which call for more than minimal mitigation that has been agreed to, or more than an existing ordinance might have called for. A 14-story glass tower is not the same as a 14-story building. So ordinances that rate the upper stories of a building as low risk factors don't apply here. Any all-glass level of a structure ranks as the highest risk and requires the highest protection. If you will not oppose this project, we continue to ask that if the tower construction is approved, it be required to have complete glass treatment in order to bring the structure to an acceptable bird safety threat rating. We hope that hundreds of birds will not pay with their lives over the village's unwillingness to require the protection that local, state, and national experts have recommended for the heightened hazards that are posed by the tower that Carvana wants to build.
Hi, my name is Lauren Grodnicki. I've lived in Skokie for 12 years. First, let me say that I believe that all of us have Skokie's best interests at heart. We just have a fundamental disagreement about what would be in Skokie's best interest. We're all emotionally exhausted from the conversation around Carvana, but I don't understand why we're still having this conversation. The people of Skokie have made it abundantly clear to you, our elected officials, that we do not want a Carvana tower on Woods Drive. Many good reasons have been given against such a tower. They include the effect that it will have on migrating birds. This is something that money can't just fix down the line, which is, I think, an attitude that a lot of people have when they talk about sustainability issues. I appreciate that Carvana agreed to move to a moving goalpost of 50 and then 65 feet, but I don't understand how those numbers were arrived at. The only number grounded in science is twice the height of the canopy, so 120 feet. We're now more aware of our impacts on the environment than we were when other buildings on that street were built. Should Optima have bird decals? Of course they should. But when you look at the Optima building, it often looks opaque, and many of the windows have blinds behind them, which the birds can see and avoid. Carvana's glass is designed to be invisible to humans, and the birds won't be able to see it either.
Just because Optima hasn't put up the decals yet doesn't mean Carvana shouldn't have to, and it will be much less expensive to put the decals on the windows before you hoist them 140 feet into the air. People keep bringing up the Albion, but it isn't next to a forest preserve, so it's not relevant. I don't know who thinks Carvana looks nice, but everyone I've spoken to thinks it will look tacky, be an eyesore, some variation on that. It detracts from the overall impression of entering an upscale neighborhood for the people we want to attract to Old Orchard Mall. The people going to the mall probably wouldn't be able to articulate why they feel like it's not upscale, but that feeling will sit with them throughout their shopping experience and linger in their memories. Carvana has had its operations frozen for 6 months in North Carolina. Florida is considering a similar action. It's on probation in Michigan. It paid almost $1 million in lawsuits in California. The Better Business Bureau fielded 899 complaints from Carvana shoppers through the end of September 2021, which is more than twice the number from CarMax, a competitor. Is this really who we want to invite into our town? Sure. If you want a reputation of being good for business, but let's make sure it's a reputation for being good for good business, not shady business that screws its customers and gets suspended by the state. And you seem willing to accept all of this over the vociferous objections by the voters because of a promise of sales tax revenue. First of all, if their license gets suspended, they're not selling anything. Second of all, it's wishful thinking to think we'll get the full $9 million over 10 years. That projection was based on an outlier. There's absolutely no reason to think that the Carvana will continue to grow at the rate it has over the past 2 years. That rate is high because, not because of Carvana's good business model, but because the pandemic drove people to buy things online, including cars. It drove the price of used cars sky high, and this was at the height of the stimulus when people had extra money to spend. I realize my time is up.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Rubenstein. I grew up in Skokie and Grosse Pointe Golf, very close to Harms Woods. I enjoyed Harms Woods through my childhood, and right now I go there with my daughter Anna, who's sitting right over there. We go there at least weekly, if not more. I feel this would completely take away from enjoyment of going to the woods, of experiencing the forest preserve. It would take down the quality of life in our village just dramatically. There's no need for it to be right next to a forest preserve. There's ample space across the highway. There's like multi-level storage there or something. It's a much better place for it. And it's just the wrong structure in the wrong place. And there's also a Holocaust museum right there, like on that block, which seems a little bit disrespectful if you ask me too, because it's so tacky. And for all those reasons, I think you should vote it down.
Good evening. My name is Jay Parker. I'm a new resident of Skokie, and this is not the way I wanted to be introduced to the town. I've heard a lot of, when concerns were brought up about environment, I heard a lot of adolescent arguments of, well, they did it. That doesn't make it right. You don't let your 5-year-old do it. Why are you letting a company do it to your town? When there were concerns brought up about the revenue, that how true is these numbers? We get a argument of, oh, just trust us. Sorry, the way government is lately, that's not something a lot of us are willing to do. Or the way businesses are run. It's not something we're really willing to do. Now, I'm a pretty good judge of character. I'm not going to try to sway any of you because I can see in your faces, the decision's already made. So instead, I'm going to turn to the constituents. People, Election Day is coming. Remember tonight, remember these faces, and the adolescent responses they gave you, and make your decisions based on that. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Dennis Clark, 25-year Skokie resident and registered voter. I'm also a local Scoutmaster of Troop 72. We meet over at the Central United Methodist Church in the log cabin, where we've been for 64 years. I had my scouts out in the Forest Preserve on Saturday, and we were hiking through the woods quite close to where this tower is going to be. And I saw something that I not only had never seen, but couldn't even imagine. There was ice formed in the nooks of the trees, and the tufted titmice were frolicking in the ice. The ice was melting because it was up in the sun. And you could see them through this glass bowl kind of thing. And it honestly was maybe one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I don't know what that's worth, but it's worth a lot to me, especially when you can share it with young people out in the woods in their hometown. So I'm not going to talk about cars or buildings or anything, but I would say that, as humans, our hearing is not tuned to the human voice. It's actually tuned to bird song, because we've been able to hear a lot longer than we've been able to talk. So I would ask you to listen to that inner voice, because that's our best, truest, oldest self. And the next time you step outside and you hear a cardinal calling, where they're setting up their territories now, and something jumps in you, that's your best self. Try to listen to that voice as you take this vote. There's a lot of anger here, and I get it. We're angry because the world is burning. And it's emotional. And y'all are good people. I know many of you personally, and I know that there's emotions involved. However, the last meeting, for the first time, I was really ashamed to be from Skokie. I was ashamed of some of the personal animus that came out towards certain board members. And we're going to have harder votes than this coming ahead, believe me. And this is not how we're going to get through it. We have to listen to each other. We have to listen to our constituents. And I hope you'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rachel Van Hoos, Skokie resident. In no way I want to fight with this board of trustees or the mayor. We don't want this. We are peaceful. The Carvana cartel, however, we got Carvana, Bridgecrest Financing, and Silver Rock Warranty Services, all based out of Arizona. So why are we even, and let me come back to some things I do need to address the board. Mayor, you said you were going to entertain comments from the audience. This is not a show, and we are not your entertainment. You should have worded that differently, that you were going to be accepting comments from the citizens who are attending this public board meeting, okay?
I certainly did
You
not.
absolutely said entertain comments from the audience, but it's my turn. So last meeting, someone said, we are at the intersection of many competing interests. How are we, the citizens, supposed to compete with foreign companies out of state that are complete and utter frauds across the entire country? How are these competing interests? How does any citizen have a stake against billionaires, corrupt, fraud billionaires? Okay, someone else said at the last meeting, and you have your back turned to me. You said there are three groups here. Those who want to protect wildlife, those who want to protect their home, and those who want to make an economic impact. You are wrong. You cannot pigeonhole us. We reject that narrative. I am here for wildlife. I am here to protect my home that I pay taxes on. And we are all here to make an environmental impact. And more importantly, we all deserve environmental and economic justice. This does not create jobs. This $9 million in revenue, you think they won't pay $9 million to their corrupt lawyers? We don't want to be embroiled in this. I don't even want you to do more research or spend another second on this. I just urge you to vote no. This is filthy, dirty business. Filthy. Okay, so where is Ernie Garcia II or his daddy? They send their lawyers. Come on to Skokie, Ernie. Come on. Come to the Holocaust Museum and, come over to my pediatricians over there at North Shore and go visit the people at Optima and show us where you want to build your monument to your predatory lending, which is really where the bread and butter is, okay? Their projections are bullshit. Everything's inflated. All lies.
Every-
And those were your words.
Hi.
Those were your words.
Since the moment we got in here, this lady's been sitting here whooping, hollering, and yelling, and being disrespectful to everybody. I don't want to hear
I
her.
spoke about the 3 minutes, that was it.
Everybody, ma'am,
You'll get your turn to speak later.
everybody, cool it. Let's give the gentleman a chance, let's give him his opportunity. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Yisrael Ebert. I'm here representing I'm a resident at Optima. I'm here representing myself and a number of other Optima residents. I would say that the last vote was very devastating to us. We feel that what this vote, Carvana project, will destroy our property values. We feel that's going to lower our quality of life. It'll be a health impact on us. But as downtrodden I am about it, is that, my grandparents who are Holocaust survivors always taught me never to give up. And so that's why I'm giving a one last ditch effort here to talk to you guys. And that reminds me, one of the reasons I moved to Optima is because it was right next to the Holocaust Museum. And of course, an Optima building is very inappropriate for that area. It's a solemn area. But I just want to say that, the case that you are depending on for revenue is based on these people. As you know, it's a company that's rotten to the core, significant problems, multiple government investigations. It's been banned in states. You heard all about that. I don't need to rehash over that. But one of the things that you may not be aware is that at least some of the witnesses either misstated or lied at the Plan Commission hearing, the first one, under oath. So, I'm not going to get into specifics here, and maybe that will be in a separate venue. But who are you going to believe? On the one side, I'm here to tell you that not only will Skokie not receive the projected revenue, I think Skokie will lose money every year. It's going to end up being a net loss in terms of revenue. And how do I know that? Is that the lawyer who deals with this on a day-to-day basis, the lawyer representing the three buildings, who came here, he wasn't paid, he came here because he was a concerned citizen, said that the Skokie will lose about $1 million a year by having this. So who are you going to believe? Are you going to believe these people who are being paid thousands of dollars to come here and say what Carvana wants them to say, a company that has all kinds of problems reputationally in every matter? Or are you going to listen to the residents, to people who are actually coming here as concerned citizens? Or are you going to listen to them? I really think that you should, at minimum, explore this more. We know the process was flawed, and due process issues are here. But I would also say, to end, in terms of process, this is likely going to end in litigation. And think of, for 5-6 years, this property will be locked up while there's court fights. You're not going to get any revenue out of that, any special. So it's something that you should consider. Finally, I would like to say that the tax revenue goes to the area of which the car is registered. Wisconsin's right across, very close away. Most of the cars are going to be out of state. The money's going to go out of state. It's not going to come here. It's an online dealership. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ted Smuckler, a 17-year resident of Skokie, and I've followed this board for a number of different issues that have come before it. And before James Johnson was on the board, I don't remember a non-unanimous vote except for when the opt-out of the minimum wage and paid sick leave came up. That was the only time I saw any real debate between. And I've never seen a development that you aren't a developer or a business interest that you haven't fawned over and decided, we must have this, right? I think just because, and for no other reason, I'm not talking about the birds, I'm talking about your citizens. How many of us have come before you? And who among your citizens has come here and said, I want this Carvana thing built, that this is in my interest? None of your citizens have said that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Emmy Yamauchi. I'm a resident of Skokie on Oakton, just down the street. Went to Niles West, went away to college, worked overseas, but retired back here 12 years ago. I'm here partly because I was appalled at the live stream of the meeting 2 weeks ago. I was appalled at the personal attacks, the unprofessional conduct, and that's what made me want to come here to see it for myself in person. That being said, I was also very dismayed at the dismissive tone taken toward the quote-unquote bird people, as they were referred to. Your constituents are voicing their opinions now. I hope that you will listen. But in the larger scheme of things, I also think that because of the board's own failures over the last 15+ years, Carvana has become, unfortunately, inevitable. Downtown Skokie is a disaster. If you want to look for buildings that need filling, just look at Oakton, Lincoln, all of those streets around there. Empty storefronts. If you want to think about economic development, it should be what will make downtown Skokie vibrant again. Carvana is a poor excuse for economic development. A vending machine does not maintain the quality of life. It does not maintain a healthy environment. In fact, it probably belongs where there are no people, since there won't really be any people in that building. It also will not help with our property values. And I don't mean just for the folks at Optima. I mean for everyone in Skokie who will have to live with that tower of shame, with that business's, that corporation's reputation. So I would really urge the board to vote this down, or at a minimum, put it on hold until, like others have suggested, there are independent studies done, until you can share more information in a timely manner and then have some transparency in this whole process. I would also say that I hope you focus more on really revitalizing downtown Skokie, not just with the Homewood Suites or this mixed-use building at the corner of Oakton and Lincoln, but you look at the small stores that have really been the lifeblood of this village over the last 50, 60 years. The TIFs, I live in one of the condominium buildings that was supposed to be the new residential anchor, the new keystone of downtown Skokie. That was 15 years ago. So, in closing, I just want to say, either please vote no or put a hold on this. If this is really the only site that Carvana wants, they can wait until the independent studies are done. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Pam Carlson. I've been a Chicago resident for over 40 years. I've worked in and out of Skokie throughout my career. I was not able to attend the last meeting. I'm an artist, I'm a professional gardener, and I'm a public speaker and educator on creating bird habitat and gardens. I was listening to some of your comments earlier about your commitment to the preservation and of sustainability of the environment. Approving a 13-story brightly lit glass tower is not a representation of this commitment. I've been rescuing and salvaging birds in Chicago since 2004, sometimes here in Skokie as well, with licensed bird and wildlife rehabilitation centers and organizations. In those 18 years, me and my fellow volunteers have rescued and salvaged thousands of birds from every type of building. Glass buildings, such as the Carvana Tower, are the worst. They are killing machines. Brightly lit buildings also kill millions of insects, the main diet of birds. Birds and insects are in dire, dire decline. It is our responsibility to preserve as much of the natural world for our future generations. Please vote no on the Carvana Tower. Do the right thing. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Vicki Wolfinger. I wasn't going to bring this up. I wanted to talk about something else, but I just feel that it's so important. The actions of turning your back on your community is very symbolic this evening. I feel like that's how we are feeling when we're talking. And whether you like it or not, we can't turn our backs on each other. So, I'm not going to speak about the environmental impact of Carvana tonight because as a medical practitioner, especially during these times, I leave those conversations to the experts. I leave the science to the scientists, not to the special interests. We've heard the experts, but we don't seem to be listening. So I'm here to give you something else to think about as you make this crucial decision. I'm here to urge you to reconsider your votes and postpone the decision on the construction of Carvana Tower in Skokie. Growing up on the north side of Chicago, I always looked up to Skokie as an innovative and inviting village. As a Russian refugee Jew who came here as a refusenik at age 9, I always looked at Skokie as a safe haven for Jews. As at one time, it was the largest population of Holocaust survivors outside of Israel. I was so proud to see our village support a safe space for Jews by building a museum that teaches about this horrible piece of history so that we never forget and continue to educate future generations. Fast forward to February 7th, 2022. I was incredibly disappointed and quite honestly insulted that our village would create a tacky commercial area near such a special and sacred historical institution. To add to the insult, it is a giant, tasteless billboard in the name of money that is now being dubbed the Death Tower. There's something so stinging about building a death tower next to a museum that signifies human suffering and death. This isn't about seeing lights from the Holocaust Museum. It's not about trucks passing by. It's about preserving a safe, respectful space surrounding a museum of history. The Holocaust Museum is not Ripley's Believe It or Not, and Skokie is not Wisconsin Dells. This proposal does not fit into the landscape of the area, does not add anything positive to the appearance of our village. In addition, we may be stuck with a space that is not reusable and stand empty for 2 years. That's a really long time. Additionally, it is a detriment to the surrounding nature and overall reputation of Skokie. I'm yet to hear any solid reasons from trustees who voted for this project why they voted in favor. You're going to cut me off. But I just want to let you know real quick, I visited Auschwitz 1 and 2. There are no billboards. There are no commercial spaces there. Please reject this proposal and think about how hurtful this is to the Jewish community here.
My name is Heath, and I think it is very disrespectful to put a giant light show next to a place of history and memory of those who died during the Holocaust. That's like putting a clown or circus in this room. It completely disrupts the mood. Like, if you were going to the Holocaust Remembrance Museum to learn about your history and the brutality of the Nazis during World War II, would you want someone standing right there shouting, "Buy a car, they are cool"? I also think that it is very disrespectful to the birds. It is a direct route for migratory birds, and the fact that they only want to put bird-safe glass only halfway up astonishes me. Birds have the entire sky. They are probably still going to hit the window above where they put the bird-safe glass. That's like only putting brakes on half the wheels of a car. You'll be half safe. Is that good enough, only half the safety. Be smart and vote no. Let the birds be more safe, and don't disrespect all the lives lost in the Holocaust. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Elise Morantz. I just want to start out and say it seems a little obvious to me that there's certainly members of this board that want this project to move forward. Seemed especially clear the way the village manager was answering many of the questions. I do want to thank this trustee who asked some smart, relevant questions, seemed to be digging in a little more, which was thoughtful, and I didn't seem to hear that from others. I am still here to speak for the voiceless birds and the affected wildlife of this project. There were comments that Carvana has set a precedence and gone above and beyond the current standards or actual lack of standards. And let's remember, when the standards are 0, 1 foot of protected mitigated glass is above and beyond. You know, if you think back to, only maybe several decades ago, there was no Irish in this town, and no Jews here, no blacks here. You can't go to school here, no people in this country club. We can't set standards by what has previously come before. Just because that's the way we've always done it is not the way to do things. And birds actually fly above 6 stories, so who will protect them? Are they just kind of SOL? It doesn't seem fair to only protect the birds flying below those 6 stories. And then lastly, I just wanted to, again, because it's already been said before, say my disappointment so strongly that I witnessed that horrible childish behavior when the self-described trustee, as the colored woman on the board, viciously barked and attacked at Trustee Johnson. I found it disgraceful and embarrassing, and quite frankly, I found that everything she accused him of just seemed to be all about her. The political motivation, the unification of this board, and him being, as best as I understand, the only independent and clear thinking voice. He was the only one who made positive, well-researched comments that I'm going to repeat here. We serve, and I'm quoting Trustee Johnson, we serve as representatives. This is not a project supported by the residents or focused interest at all by the Environmental Sustainability and Climate Action Plan. We are obligated to those commitments of our actions. And then he repeated the almost 30 people he heard from, which has to be much more abundant weeks later, to this, the Illinois, and I'm going to repeat them, who he heard from that voted no or was very concerned about this project: the Department of Natural Resources, the Department of Nature Preserve, the Sierra Club, American Bird Conservation, Chicago Ornithological Society, Chicago Audubon Society, the Bird Collision Monitors, Go Green Skokie, Go Green Wilmette, Friends of the Forest, Evanston North Shore Bird Club, Citizens Greener Evanston, Natural Habitat for Evanston, and Bird Friendly Evanston, and the professors at Northwestern DePaul Loyola, National Louis University in Roosevelt, and 8 of the 12 sustainability commissioners, the head of the EPA. Please, I implore your empathy, dig deep, and vote no. This is wrong.
Hi, good evening. My name is Melina Kelson, and I'm sorry I'm not more prepared. I was not intending to speak, but I do want to make a couple of comments. I appreciate that the trustees have tried to find some level of compromise and work toward bird mitigation, but this is really an argument like, I don't know, coming up with a cleaner coal factory. We know it's bad. It doesn't matter that we're doing bird mitigation. We know it's still going to be problematic. I'm also frustrated by this project because I just think it's going to be, their goal is to minimize their overhead, right? To have as few employees as possible. So we have lots of partners in the village, car dealers that have been there for 18 years, right around the corner from where Carvana is proposed, who have more than 30 employees. And I understand you can say that this is going to compete with a model like CarMax. Well, CarMax might be up the street, but it's not in Skokie. So we really do need to think about how are we as a village supporting our other businesses that are supporting our community. They are part of the fabric of the community. As we know, Rob Patter for years sponsored things like Wednesdays on the Greens. He was part of the community. Is Carvana making a commitment like that? Please, 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 I urge you to vote no on this. Thank you.
My name is Marnie Glazer, and I live in West Rogers Park in Chicago. And when I heard about this project, I was disappointed because I am somebody who does walk in the woods a lot. I like Harms Woods and other forest preserves. And I'm just thinking as I attend tonight, I wonder how many people on the board are forest people, and walk in the woods. If maybe, not everybody does. And maybe that's why it didn't seem like you considered that much about what the forest preserve people call exceptional, a land of exceptional ecological quality that Harms Flat Woods are. I think my biggest question is, what made you go forward on this project as far as you have without getting any kind of environmental impact study done? That really surprises me. Or a building, this is an auto dealer, but it's not what probably was an auto dealer back in the days when your ordinance was put into effect, something that's tall and glass-like and everything. This is more like a mini skyscraper in a way. But I don't know if you can answer a question now or if it's only a matter of comments, but why didn't you get an environmental impact evaluation done for this, on the edge of this precious forest and habitat? Can you answer it? I don't know if you can.
The environmental is already embedded in our ordinance. And we have listened to what the scientists and the experts have advised. The mitigations provided in this project rank up with San Francisco.
No tower. They don't have a tower.
Well, can you restrain yourself and let somebody else
Yeah,
talk? It's just elementary politeness, that's all. Ma'am, you've had an opportunity.
Yeah.
I was asked a question. Let me answer the question.
Yeah, I'm really interested to know. Please don't interrupt him. Thanks.
Okay? We have the bird mitigation on this project is as strict as anywhere else in North America. That includes Toronto, San Francisco, Portland, Oregon. The three that have the strictest bird mitigation in the country. And we did that without an ordinance. We do not have an ordinance.
You're not a hero. You're not a hero.
No.
Anyway,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Hello, my name is Callie Folks. I am a little late. I was participating in the community at doing theater. Anyway, at the last meeting, one of the trustees, and I'm sure we all know who, said, and this is a direct quote, "The independent voice does not play by the same rules and cannot be held accountable by his own peers." I found this to be very telling because last time I checked, politicians, and make no mistake, you are all politicians, are supposed to be accountable to the voters. More so than you, this independent voice is accountable to us, the voters, because unlike you, he does not have a party to back him up if he does something we don't like. And it shows, because he was the only one to vote for the way that the community as a whole wanted. You told on yourself, because that statement, coupled with your action, show that you don't actually value the input of the community. I really don't believe that you can honestly claim you listened to arguments on all sides, because despite overwhelming negative evidence that this would be bad for Skokie and is not what we want, 6 of you voted to approve this. How hypocritical to talk about accountability when the 6 of you have taken none. Now, I'm a law student, I'm not a lawyer, but I do happen to know a bit about lawsuits, and Carvana has faced and is currently facing multiple lawsuits. The most recent one was a suit filed in federal court alleging that the company broke consumer protection statutes. There are many more examples. I only have a few minutes, but this is not hidden information. Last time a few of you decided to come for a fellow trustee because he posted online he was going to vote no. Someone said he made a fool of himself for doing that. How? How is it foolish when we don't know that Carvana is going to follow Illinois law? History tells us that they don't follow the laws of the state they're in. Anybody doing basic vetting can see, regardless of how many concessions it makes to appease the community, this is a questionable company at best. It was a questionable company before the presentation. It is still a questionable company now. What good is a plan if we can't trust the people executing it? So honestly, I have to laugh for 2 reasons. First, you made the vote all about him, which is petty and childish. Go back to high school. Second, it seemed like you were mad at him for doing research. Or worse, it seemed like you were mad at him for actually doing his job and listening to the community. Now, what does that say about you? Certainly doesn't sound like something someone who actually cared about accountability would say. Thank you.
Good evening, trustees, community. I really appreciate everybody and the efforts being put in. What I would like to say is, can this not be tabled? Can you not post the information that you shared with us? You share it with some authority. Is there not an ability for other groups to take a look at that and verify and validify, the accuracy of it? Because I feel conflicted about what we're being presented. If it's true, I'm just not really sure why there hasn't been something more transparent. Publish it, show us. And that's really all I have to say.
Well, ma'am, the Plan Commission's report is on the website,
Okay,
and that's got the information.
so does that have, does it show that people have opposed this? Does it give all of that information?
Oh, that
Does it
information, I think everybody in the world is aware of that. I mean, that's something that we're all,
If it's something that we really are to weigh, it's really important to not put something up and then after the fact, try to remediate the problem.
the Plan Commission's report has been on the website for over a month.
But you're touting information and different things that are just projections. And you're not necessarily doing your own independent research where others can chime in, people who do have authority outside of just you as trustees. And I think that's what I'm asking is, there's a lot of information that was being stated tonight, answers to questions, but they seem empty. And it doesn't seem like people have a chance that are experts to be able to say, well, here, you say San Francisco this or Canada this. How does anybody really know this is true? And how do we hear from the other authorities? Like, if you're honestly making an educated decision, then table it. Table it and consider all of those things more strongly.
Thank you.
That's all that I'm asking.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lori Kaplan. I'm a Skokie resident and retired village employee. Excuse me. I would ask that you please reconsider your vote. I find it striking once again that every single person, 100% without exception, who has spoken here tonight has spoken against this proposal. Clearly, the feelings of the community are against it. I thought we lived in a representative community, representative government. When the community expresses itself so clearly and so unanimously, and the board and the mayor disregard all of that eloquence and all of those facts, it's a dreadful feeling to feel that the representatives you trusted do not represent the citizens, and that's the only conclusion that we can sadly come to after 2 meetings, so many emails, so many petitions. I'm shocked and saddened as a longtime Skokie resident that I would ever come to feel this way about my government, but your actions have kind of left no other way to look at it. I would plead with you all to understand that you are human beings with the power of choice, the power of conscience. Please listen to what has been said to you. Take it to heart. Remember that you do represent us, and please follow through with that and do the right thing. You can. You can require Carvana to cover 100% of the glass, which as a unique structure, unlike any other structure with those ordinances apply to. And again, it's apples and oranges. Please don't compare Carvana to a building in downtown Evanston or one in San Francisco. It's nice that Skokie is going to have an ordinance, but do it the right way. Why not? Be a shining example. Skokie, as I said last month or last week, Skokie is already in the history books with a history that we can all be proud of. Let's maintain that pride, and let Skokie stand for everything good. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Elaine Carlson. I am a Chicago resident, and I am a longtime volunteer with Chicago Bird Collision Monitors. I have been asked to clarify a few points. When Skokie claims that they are providing higher mitigation than other cities, it's important to know that those ordinances are based on building structures. They are not based on an all-glass structure. As an all-glass structure, this Carvana tower would absolutely fail those ordinances. So to clarify, Skokie is not doing better than other cities. I would encourage the board to table this and release the data so that people can view it clearly, so that they can believe it, and that we can reestablish some trust between the citizens of Skokie and its elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Trustee Johnson, you wanted to reserve some time.
I think I'm good. I'm good.
Thank you. I appreciate it. My name is Melissa Foster. I'm a Chicago resident. I've done a lot of volunteering with the Chicago Audubon and with monitoring. What I just wanted to urge you is to really look at and research, listen to the people who know about bird collisions and what causes them. We've heard at several points, and I was impressed with the last woman who spoke, there are people who know what kind of architectural materials cause how much bird death. The information is out there. There was a book published recently by an expert on this field. I'm sorry I didn't come with the name of it, but it's... Dr. Clem, Solid Air. Oh, thank you. Dr. Clem, Solid Air, an ornithologist. And so it's out there for you to see and to read and to learn about and to inform yourselves and to apply to this decision before you, which is so important because we are certainly on a tipping point in our world, and we can't afford to continue to make decisions based on, oh, well, it's kind of good enough. It's not good enough anymore. Thank you.
Trustee Johnson.
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Oh, okay. We have before us a ordinance regarding the zoning of Carvana. Does any member of the board have any comments? If not, will the clerk please call the roll on the motion?
Trustee Sutker,
Aye.
Trustee Robinson,
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn,
Aye.
Trustee Johnson,
Nay.
Trustee Pure Slovin,
Aye.
Trustee Klein, Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes. The next item is site plan approval.
Item B is an ordinance which was on my report for second reading tonight also. The first reading was also on February 7th, 2022. I did not place this on the consent agenda, anticipating discussion tonight. This ordinance will grant site plan approval for the construction of a car dealership at 9801 Woods Drive in an OR office research district. The property was previously the site of the Rand McNally campus and has now been proposed as a site for a Carvana dealership. Subsequent to Plan Commission meetings on November 18th and January 6th, the Plan Commission has amended their recommendation by adding various conditions to address the specific issues raised in those meetings and is discussed further with Carvana. In addition, Carvana has agreed to other suggested condition amendments from the village board meeting. I point out that the conditions are further amended tonight by agreement with Carvana and the village to remove the requirement for a bankruptcy to occur in order to use the $200,000 funds committed for the demolition of the building if it is vacant for 2 years. Mayor, I request board action on this ordinance tonight.
A motion on the site plan approval is in order. Trustee Klein, seconded by Trustee Kuhn. Are there any comments or questions? If not, call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker,
Aye.
Trustee Robinson,
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn,
Aye.
Trustee Johnson,
Nay.
Trustee Pure Slovin,
Aye.
Trustee Klein, Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes.
Mayor, that would conclude my report for tonight.
Okay. We will take a 5-minute break. Meeting, please.
My name is Lauren Gardner. I
Okay.
wanted to reach out to you.
Keith?
If you're willing to.
Yeah, please.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Lauren, right?
let us resume our meeting, please.
I think, sorry. Thank you. Yeah, let's.
I'm just trying to understand how this works.
The meeting will resume. We have 3 Plan Commission cases this evening. Chairman Paul Luke with Matt Brandmeier. Mr. Chairman?
First case, actually, all 3 cases are kind of all related, so I will give you a gloss over of all 3 cases. And, but a reminder, you'll need to vote on each case separately. Case 2022-01P, 2022-02P, and 2022-03P are all related to the Chick-fil-A request for a drive-through, a dine-in and a drive-through restaurant at 3720 Toohey Avenue. At the February 3rd meeting of the Plan Commission, we reviewed the request for a site plan amendment for a 4,447 square foot limited service restaurant with a drive-through and outdoor seating. The restaurant is proposed on an outlot of the Toohey Hamlin development, which includes Buena Beef and Lori Children's Primary Care. The original plan for the development included a 10,500 square foot retail building. The proposed restaurant is required to have 45 parking spaces. The applicant proposes 32 spaces on site, with the remaining provided within the existing shared parking area between the subject site and Buena Beef. Relief for curb setbacks and wall signage was provided through the original approval for development and are being carried forward through this amendment. The proposed building and elevations and landscape plans were reviewed and approved at the December 8th meeting of the Appearance Commission. Commissioners voted 6 ayes, no nays, and one commissioner absent on the site plan amendment. In case 2022, this is just a special use permit for the drive-through facility, which will be kind of unique because they're going to have 2 full lanes, and they'll be able to stack 30 cars, which I think is quite interesting, and hopefully will relieve traffic of people coming off of Toohey Avenue. In case 2022-03P, this is a special use request for outdoor dining, and they're going to have a little patio set on the west side and the east side of the front entry, and there'll be 20 seats and 4 tables. So, any questions?
Comments or questions? Trustee Robinson.
Of course, I'm just going to ask about some of the sustainability efforts in this new site plan. During the Plan Commission meeting, the thought, it wasn't brought up, to be honest with you. Kind of like permeable pavers, or is there something, Matt, that?
Well, there's an overall stormwater management plan for, the broader site, so they will be, all of their drainage and runoff and stormwater will be handled within the overall campus.
Yeah, this is all part of our recommended conditions, which, there's a standard set of conditions for all site plan approvals.
We also reviewed and will continue to review through the building permit process. We'll apply the Energy Conservation Code, we'll apply the Illinois Plumbing Code. There are complete streets considerations, there's bus stop in front. and across the street to allow, all alternative ways of, accessing the site. Let me think what else. Then, of course, the landscaping, which, which includes the landscape plan. There's no trees on the site currently. It's essentially a pad-ready site that was originally for a bigger building. So, they reduced the size of the building. They added some more parking spaces. They have the drive-through lanes, but they had leftover space for landscaping, which they're utilizing. So those are generally the areas that we, looked at through the planning process.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am. Wait. Do you mind coming up to the microphone and give us your name, please?
Lauren Grodnicki, to address the sustainability question that was just asked, you said that you can stack 30 cars that are all going to be idling. How is this compatible with sustainability? To me, it just seems like it's the opposite of that.
May I answer that? I just bought a new car, and the new feature on all the new cars is that when they idle, they turn off, and then they turn right back on.
Right, I've seen
It's a
those
pain,
new
but-
cars, but not all cars are new. Most of the
But
cars
this
on the
is
road are not.
mine. It's not a new thing this year. They've been in existence, I don't know how many years, but I do know that that is the thing, the way cars are being made now, all cars.
I mean, even my Prius doesn't turn off if I have the heat on.
You have a what on?
A Prius, and even that doesn't turn off if the heat is running. So, again,
Mine does.
okay.
That's a good point, though.
Well, the problem is if the cars aren't stacked, they're going to be on Toohey Avenue. That's part of the problem that we're trying to relieve, get the cars off Toohey. But a motion on the site plan amendment for 3720 Toohey is in order. Trustee Klein, seconded by Trustee Sucker. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker,
Aye.
Trustee Robinson,
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn,
Aye.
Trustee Johnson,
Aye.
Trustee Pure Slovin.
She's gone.
She's gone.
Can you move her back? Sorry.
Trustee Klein,
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes. And we're trying to get Trustee Pure Slovan.
First casualty of Zoom.
Is it council table or? Podium desk, huh?
There she is.
Oh, she's almost there.
Hey.
Trustee Pure Slovin, we are taking vote.
Aye.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay.
The second is a motion on Plan Commission Case 2022-2P, special use permit for the drive-through restaurant at 3720 Toohey Avenue. A motion is in order. Trustee Klein, second by Trustee Sutker. Are there any comments or questions? If not, call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker,
Aye.
Trustee Robinson.
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn,
Aye.
Trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Pure Slovin,
Aye.
Trustee Klein.
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes. And finally, Plan Commission Case 2022-3P, special use permit, outdoor dining, 3720 Toohey. Motion is in order. Trustee Klein, seconded by Trustee Sucker. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker,
Aye.
Trustee Robinson.
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn,
Aye.
Trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Pure Slovin,
Aye.
Trustee Klein.
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. And finally, this evening, public comment. Is there anybody who wishes to address the village board? Yeah, I wasn't trying to stop anybody from talking. God forbid, that's something we do well in Skokie. So thank you for the thank you. Trustee Sutker. We are adjourned.